the anchor of the CBS Evening News, Katie Couric. Good morning.
Hi, Harry. Good to see you.
You had the opportunity to have dinner with Walter. Walter really did, in fact, give his blessing to your broadcast. What was that like for you to then follow in his footsteps?
Well, obviously, it was extraordinarily daunting, and just talking about Walter Cronkite and seeing all his body of work these last few days makes it even more so today than it was 3 years ago when I took on this job. But he was very supportive of my becoming the anchor of the CBS Evening News, and, you know, told me he had a lot of confidence in me, and we talked about a lot of things during that dinner about covering the Nuremberg trials, what that was like for him, various assignments he's had through the years. He started at United Press, as did my father, so we had a lot of wire service stories that we exchanged. And we talked about American Idol, believe it or not, because it was sort of at its zenith back then. And he also talked about being fair and impartial and objective, and said that he got grief from both sides of the aisle, as have I, during the course of my career, but it made me feel much better about some of the criticism that you often take when you're in this position.
So much of what he taught us, though, was about going to the story, and it seems like you have taken that very seriously.
Well, I think like Walter, I love reporting, so when a big event happens, I love to be on the scene. But, you know, he set the standard in so many ways, Harry. I thought it was very moving when Roger Mudd said, when he was part of that group of extraordinary Washington correspondents back in the day, that he said Walter Cronkite made them all proud to be TV journalists, because at a time when TV was in its infancy, he really shaped the medium in a way that I think no one else could have. And I think we owe him a huge debt of gratitude for doing that, for emphasizing things like accuracy, fairness, objectivity, decency, humanity, and getting to the story and making the news more important than the person delivering it. And you know, a lot of things have changed, obviously, and the media landscape is much more fractured than it once was, and there are a lot of other pressures that I think were not necessarily attendant to the news in that day, although I think there were some,
sure, had to
certainly. But, you know, he was just an extraordinary person first, I think, and an extraordinary journalist second.
You know, one of the first stories I did at CBS, I found myself, it was the 50th anniversary of a disaster in Texas. As I'm going through the archives, I found the first wire story reports that had been filed by Walter Cronkite. And he was right so often about so many things, but he worked so hard at that.
Yeah.
It wasn't easy. It wasn't frivolous. It wasn't, oh, his life was dedicated to this.
Well, he was unbelievably committed to his craft, I think, every single day. And I think, again, it's very inspiring to read about that, and for the people who actually got to work with him directly, what a thrill and honor that must have been. But I think one thing that I think is wonderful about celebrating his mark is, I think, a lot of young people who may have heard the name Walter Cronkite, but I think who didn't experience his work directly, far younger than we are, so didn't see his coverage of the Kennedy assassination or of Watergate or earlier of Vietnam, are learning about this man, many of them, I believe, probably for the first time, and the impact he had and the value that he brought to television news. And I think that's a wonderful thing for everybody.
Yeah. His legacy lives on in your broadcast every night.
Well, we try. It's something to strive for, and you know, I think even striving for it is an important aspect of what we do every day, and I know that you care deeply too.
Noble goal. Katie, thanks for coming in this morning.
Good to see you, Harry.
Good to see you, pal. All right.